Hey, good morning YouTube. It's Mike from Beautiful Day Garden in eastern Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley, Zone 6B. And we're almost done with August, and it's definitely, you can tell, fall is in the air. The temperatures, we're down to 68 degrees now this morning, and it seems like the summer's pretty much over here. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start my vegetable garden cleanup. And I'm going to certainly start with the pumpkin patch here because number one is, like I said the last video, is, some pumpkins, I never grew pumpkins before. It's just something I wanted to try, and I did. But I'm not going to be doing that next year, simply because, as you can see behind me, they just get so overgrown and they really take over. They literally grow like weeds, but like I said, we try things, so my first order of business today is to clean up the pumpkin patch, and then I'll be getting to some other plants in the garden that have dried up. So there we go. Maybe one of my daughters can make a jack-o'-lantern out of the pumpkin. So, Halloween's coming up, so I don't know if that's going to last that long, but let's see.
And all right, so there we have it. This is what the area looks like now with the pumpkins cleaned up. And we can really see how much space the pumpkin vines, took up. For the first time now, we can see the Swiss chard here. And you can see that the vines of the pumpkin plant just really, weighed down on the leaves here of the Swiss chard. So I'm hoping within the next week or so that they kind of pop up. I mean, they look relatively healthy, but let's see what the next week brings. Now on this side, I did the same kind of thing. I took up the zucchini vines, and you can see that opened up the space as well. They were getting all dried, and it's more towards the end of the season, so we got some of the Swiss chard plants are doing really well. Others were covered up by the zucchini vines, and this is the last of it. Right here, we got 2 more zucchinis growing there on this last plant here. So after these plants mature, probably by the end of the week I'll pick them. Then I can get this zucchini plant up. But you can see how this whole area just kind of opened up. Now this is a good learning experience, because next year I'm certainly not going to be planting the pumpkins. I'll plant something else that just kind of grows more in its spot. So hey, live and learn. Okay, there we go. So we got eggplant row here. We got the tomato rows growing. And I don't know if you can appreciate this. I don't know if you can see it, but it's on a hill. All right. So what happens is, as the tomatoes here fall off, they roll down the black polypropylene down the hill. And they just roll down onto the grass. So what I have to do is I have to probably put a barrier here next year, right on the end, so it'll contain the tomatoes. So as they roll down the hill here, they're not going to just roll into the street, onto the grass, onto the street. They'll be contained. So I think that's what I'm going to do for next year. I'll put maybe some 4x4 12-foot beams here on the edge here, and that's going to help contain the tomatoes so they don't just kind of roll all over on the grass on the street here. So that's a project for early spring next year. All right, just to give you a little update here on how some of these things are progressing. You can see that the eggplants are really coming in. And basically what I do is I trim the lower leaves on the eggplants, and again, it just makes the fruit a lot easier to see. We come in here, looking real good this year. And just basically taking a look little overview of some of the crops here. So we have my rows of tomatoes here, and you can see my 4-stem technique and how I take away the foliage on the lower branches because it's really unnecessary. And I want the tomato plants to put their energy into the actual tomatoes. I'll keep the foliage on top, but doing it this way, you can really see how the plants really produce, you know, and it's really organized and neat, and you can really, you don't have to go searching through a big bushy tomato plant to find the tomatoes. They're right there, and there we go. We got some green mushroom basket tomatoes, so they're coming along. And they should start ripening up probably within the next week or so. So some other tomatoes on this side here. Yeah, there we go. But everything is just, this just makes everything much easier to see. So I'm really happy with the way this 4-stem technique has gone this year, and this is something I'm definitely going to be doing next year. Okay, so going from my rows of tomatoes right by the eggplant here, these are the tomato plants that I really didn't trim. I just didn't have time to get to them, and you can see how bushy they are and hard to see, you know, what's inside there. Next to that, you can see this is a cucumber, what's left of the cucumber plant. So this is my homework for today. Take away the dead dying plants. It's just not as hardy as, you know, a tomato plant. So these are one of the first ones to really dry out, so I'll be taking that up. Let's see, just strolling around the garden here. Here's my other cucumber plants, and you can see they're in a similar kind of a condition, all dried up, more delicate than the hardier tomato plants. Back behind them we have some bell pepper plants. They're coming along. Very nice. And here we have, you know, a tomato plant, gets top heavy, tips the tomato cage over. And here's another example. Tomato cage just tipped right over because of the weight of the tomatoes. And backing off, you can see the echinaceas drying up as well. So I'll probably get to that next week or two. And in this section here, you can see a similar kind of a thing, where this this tomato plant looks like the whole thing is really it's time to go. And that's what's going to happen. You know, one by one, I'll have to you know, take them up. But this one looks like it's had it. Its season's, you know, pretty much finished. Let's see here. Yeah, just looking around the garden here during my cleanup, you can also see that we had a lot of rain for this past week, and we can see, you know, the results. We're getting, you know, some mold on some of these, and, you know, others are falling off on the ground. Here's another one. You know, so that's my job for today, is to clean this stuff up. Here's one that needs to come down. But some of the others, you know, doing really well. So, yeah, so I'll take this one down, you know. Scooting over here on this side, I just kind of see a similar kind of a thing. Some of the tomatoes, you know, have really had it. They're done. But then as we get, you know, more towards it, you can see that I've been using my 4-stem technique throughout the season. So I've been trimming the foliage, the unnecessary foliage, away from the bottom of the plant, and just keeping the foliage towards the top of the plant. And that worked out real well. So you can see the dry leaves here. That's what I'm going to be cleaning up. In my cleanup today, that's what I'm going to be taking away. We're still getting, you know, really good production though. Look at this, all the sun gold tomatoes. But I'm just going to start to clean up the dead drying leaves and branches. And since I took care of it throughout the season, it just made the job today a lot easier. Just kind of scooting down here. And we see, you know, the same thing on this plant.
this tomato plant. We got getting some dry branches here. I'll be, you know, trimming them away. And, you know, over here, same kind of thing. So I'm going to be trimming them away, and it's just going to make my job easier, you know, as the next month goes on. So there we go. Okay, and here we go with the sunflowers. So we can see that the leaves here are drying up too. So let me take probably all these leaves down. Actually, I'll probably, you know, cut the head off. I'll cut it about here, and then I'll hang it upside down so it can dry, and then I can harvest the seeds, you know, for next year for eating, and that will be good, you know. But it's just like all the other plants, you know. It's getting towards the end of the season, so, you know, it's drying up bit by bit, and you know, just time to clean up. I took down one of the heads of the sunflowers, and we could see down here that something was eating them. They were going for the sunflower seeds, which is fine. You know, I think it's probably a squirrel. There's some squirrels that are hitting my garden. So all I had to do is I had to just let the head of the sunflower here just dry out. You can see the sunflower seeds here, and this top coating here, this just rubs right off. You see how these little flowers come like right off? So I'm gonna take all these flowers off, and then I can bring this indoors, let it dry out, and I could save some of these seeds for next year. I can, you know, eat some of them. And there we go, easy enough. And there we go. All right, very nice. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for joining me on this edition of Beautiful Day Garden. Today was the start of the cooler weather and a little bit of cleanup in the garden, just trimming away some of the dead plants and the dead branches, and you know, just taking a look at a lot of the ripened fruit that's ready to be picked. You know, so here's one of my Roma tomatoes, and I love eating the tomatoes right off the vine. You know, it's a nice meaty tomato, one of my favorites. So this is how I work. I'll have some breakfast. I'll have some, you know, be it Swiss chard or the tomatoes off the vine. Please be sure to hit the like button, and I'll see you next episode. Take care.